Hi there, I'm Tim, the Managing Director here at Pronto. Today I'm going to be talking a little bit about website accessibility and why it's important to make your website accessible to those with all kinds of disabilities. A question we sometimes get from our clients is whether they're at risk of being sued for violating the Americans with Disabilities Act. The answer is that if you haven't made any effort to make your website more accessible to people with disabilities, then yes, you are at risk of getting sued. However, there are solutions out there, and in this video today, I'll be talking about how you can make your website more accessible and protect your business from these lawsuits. First, I'd like to talk about accessibility laws and guidelines. About 26% of Americans have a disability. That's why the government has passed laws over the years to help define what equal access means. You're likely familiar with the Americans with Disabilities Act, but there's also Section 508 of the Rehabilitation Act and the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, which are not a law but give us best practices about how to make websites and online experiences more accessible. We often think about things like wheelchair ramps, handicap parking spaces, and sidewalk markings for the visually impaired when we're thinking about accessibility. But it's important that we also consider websites. We need to make sure websites provide equal access to features like reading content, submitting forms, or making purchases. If you're not able to make your website more accessible, then you are at risk of getting sued. These lawsuits have been on the rise over the years, so it's important that you make your website more accessible, not only because it's the right thing to do, but also because it protects your business. Before getting into accessibility solutions, I want to cover 3 myths that come up about compliance. The first one is that my website can be certified as compliant. Unfortunately, there's not a governing body that enforces these rules or certifies websites or businesses as compliant. So the best we have is the Web Content Accessibility Guidelines, which help us figure out how to make our websites more accessible. Next, I need to do X in order to become compliant. It's better to think of accessibility as a spectrum rather than a series of checklists. The more you do to make your website accessible, the higher up on that spectrum you are. But there's not a particular end goal that you're aiming for. And the last one is, I don't need to worry about accessibility after I've achieved compliance. Accessibility is an ongoing process. Your website is always changing, and you need to make sure that new content and new features you launch on your website are accessible as they're being launched. Now, let's talk about how to make your website more accessible. A great place to start is by running an accessibility report. We recommend using the Wave tool by WebAIM or accessibilitychecker.org. Both of these tools can run automated scans that let you know what issues exist on your site today. Once you have those issues, you have 2 options for how to make your website more accessible. One is to build your website with accessibility in mind from the ground up. This would involve working with a series of consultants and agencies to make sure all different features of your website are accessible to those with disabilities. This tends to be a very drawn-out process and very expensive, but it can be the right solution if you have a large or very complex website. If your website isn't that complex, a better option is likely to add an accessibility plugin to your site. By installing this on your website, you can have hundreds of issues fixed automatically. You can give disabled users access to a variety of tools to ease their browsing experience, and it's much cheaper and less expensive than going through the customized route. That's why we recommend Userway. It's an easy-to-install plugin that gives disabled users access to 15 accessibility tools. It also offers AI-powered automatic remediations. So the tool automatically finds issues on your website and, where possible, fixes them without you having to do anything. And along with your subscription, you get a $10,000 litigation guarantee so that if you do run into legal issues down the road, you are protected. It's really easy to get started. Just head over to the Userway website and sign up for their small website package. Then send the embed script over to us at Pronto, and we'll take care of adding it to your website. And once that's done, you can log into Userway and customize the accessibility settings of your website. You can follow the links below to get started, or if you have any questions, feel free to email us at support@prontomarketing.com, and we'll be happy to help you out. Thanks.